All right, and we're good to go. Let me pull up the agenda. All right, and share my screen. Hold on, let me do that. All right, and there we go. So screen is shared. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so Josh, you're still our chair. You want to start us off with our annual meeting, please?
All right, we'll start the annual meeting at 6:02 p.m. Election of officers for the 2021 board.
Okay, so this is our annual election of the officers for the board. I spoke with everyone individually. Our current officers are Josh is our chair, Jennifer is our vice chair, Krista is our secretary, Matt is our treasurer, and at large was Eric. Eric's not on yet. Oh, he asked me to send him the Evite. Well, I sent it to him, so I'll try sending it to him again. Hold on a second. I will do that right now. I sent it yesterday. Moment, where is it? And there. Hold on one second, folks. I just want to make sure I get this to Eric in a timely fashion. There we go. Send. All right. Let me know. Just emailed it. Okay. So those were our previous officers last year. Spoke to each of you individually and discussed possibilities and what your wishes were. After those conversations and based on the thoughts of each of the board members, the proposed makeup of the officers would be as follows. Jennifer Cox would be chair. Eric Jokinen would be vice chair. Krista Lorcher would be secretary. Treasurer would be Matt Sims. And at large would be Josh Coleman. That's just based on individual conversations, however, and this is a board decision. You each have to nominate each of the roles, discuss, vote as needed. It's a first and second kind of thing that we do this every year. So I just wanted to kind of start the conversation there, but the rest is up to you guys. You tell me what you want, and I will take care of it from there. So Josh as chair, it's up to you to start that conversation.
Okay. Sorry, I just got back on. I had to call back in.
Okay.
Commissioners, do we want? I missed some of that, but is it something that we would like to vote on and do?
Yes. Now? So this is the annual election. So yes, you would have to nominate someone would need to be nominated for chair. That nomination would need to be seconded, and then we would have any other nominations. And if there's none, then we could vote on chair, and then vice chair, and then secretary, and then treasurer. So that's how it would follow. I did have the breakdown up. I can bring that up again of what people had expressed to me that they were up for. I can bring that up again. And that is, let's see if I can move this around here. I can't move that part. Okay. So the roles that I was told by each person that they would be interested in or that'd be open to, Eric and Matt said they were pretty much open to anything. Jennifer and Krista specifically said she wanted to continue.
I'm not getting any audio.
You're not getting my audio? Is everybody else hearing me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so Matt, that might be an issue on your end if you can't hear me.
I'm gonna try dialing in my phone.
Okay.
Hold on.
Please enter your access code. To enable audio control.
So, Josh, can you still hear me?
I just dialed in by phone and I can hear you, Doug.
Okay, so Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine now. Okay, so we seem to have revised our technical difficulties. Let's go through this again. So basically what we are doing here is there needs to be a nomination and a second for each position. You can nominate multiple people and then there can be discussion. You can nominate one person, see if there's anybody else that's interested. But that starts with you, Josh. Each position would need a nomination and a second, and then for that particular nomination. And then if there's no other nominations, it would be any discussion and then a vote. So it would be the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. And you can see the screen. The current ones are at the top, are the first part of the memo. What each person expressed to me that they would be open to is the second part there.
Okay, gotcha. And as chair, can I nominate, or will somebody else have to nominate them?
You would call for a nomination for the chair.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think we should do this. So, would anyone like to nominate for a chair position?
Yeah,
I would like to nominate Jennifer Cox for chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so
I
now,
will second.
All in favor?
Eric, aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Josh, aye.
okay, so at this point,
Okay.
at this point, Josh, you could give control now to Jennifer. She is now our chair, and then she could go through the rest of the positions.
Well, we can just nominate, right?
You can just
I
nominate too.
nominate Eric for vice chair, Krista for secretary, and Josh as the at-large member.
We don't need to nominate anybody for at-large. It would need to be that was just the default if there's no voting on that.
Okay. I nominate Eric for vice chair and Krista for secretary.
Can I interject just for a second? Just to clarify, if Josh has interest being vice chair, I was fine being at large, but I'd be more than happy to do that if Josh wants to take a breather. So just want you to know that I didn't really step up and say but I'm fine doing that. Either way.
No, and I'm totally comfortable with doing things this way. So if everybody's happy, I'm happy. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a second on Matt's nomination?
I'll second the nomination for Eric for vice chair, Krista for secretary.
And all in favor?
Jennifer, I.
Eric, aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Josh, aye.
Okay, and then we need just a nomination for treasurer now.
I nominate Matt for treasurer.
I'll
Do we have a
second
second?
that.
All in favor?
Jennifer, I.
Eric, aye.
Krista, I.
Josh, aye.
Okay, well now, Jennifer, as the new chair, you can adjourn our annual meeting.
All right, we will adjourn the annual meeting at 6:11.
Okay, and then you can call to order our regular meeting.
All right, we'll call the regular meeting to order at 6:11.
Perfect. The first item on the agenda is public comment. We do have public comment today. I did email out to you just before the meeting an updated comment from Mr. Bush. I do have that here. I hope that all of you got it. I did make sure that it got sent out to your emails as soon as I had it. There it is there on the screen. I can scroll through as needed. Let's go this way because I can be wider, and then let's minimize. Let's get this, close this out. Hide everyone. Do that. There we go. So now you should be able to see the whole width. You also should have this in your email. I know he emailed it to all the commissioners. I also followed up and emailed it as well as a copy. So you should have it twice in your inbox. This is an update to his previous comments. And I know if I saw, I believe John is also online. So if Jennifer, if you want to recognize him for actual comment, that's fine too.
So in the interest of time, John, given that we just received this before the meeting, I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to review it or digest it. Would you like to take a moment or two to just give us a couple of bullet points, and then we can review it and discuss it next month?
Yes. What I have here is a very brief series of observations, not all of which I need to cover. And then following it is the previous letter. So it's what I have to say this evening is really quite brief compared to what's in the document. I believe that we share identical goals for the build out of trails on the Trustlands Trails lands, and that is high quality visitation of the natural environment with all the benefits to visitors and enjoyment of the lands themselves that we discussed. I think we share that goal, and it's identical. However, as I observed in my consideration of the original 2008 plan and have shared with several of you individually a year ago and again last month, I don't believe the practices have fulfilled the intent of the plan. There are notes here about trail building, which you can read. They're pretty self-descriptive. The major point there is I believe that the practices employed have created negative impacts due to the expediencies that attended a very ambitious production schedule, and they were not necessary and were avoidable, which I believe would have saved money, manpower, without the aesthetic and environmental damage, which now requires additional expense to mitigate. I bring this up at this point since that work has already been done to create the trails. This should be given serious consideration as regards future maintenance of those trails and any further trail building if and when considered. I'm only talking about really three items here. One was the trail building. The next one is public safety and security. I did explore with Commissioner Cox the notion of a phone tree to aid in securing the parking lot when an individual whose job it is indisposed. And I've listed that suggestion there. I do think that there's a missing policy here, and that regards posting the policy of the district. If vehicles remain in the parking lot after closing time, people should know what that is and be able to anticipate it. So I suggest you post that. And regarding closing time, I looked at the length of day, and I have a list here. This is just one idea of how to do this, but dusk is a subjective definition, and it's different in the forest than it is in the parking lot because of the open sky that's in the parking lot are relatively open. So here's one approach to that as a possible remedy. It's posting specific times when it would be closed. And I'm thinking that physically that would be the kind of sign that you see, for instance, where you have to put chains on, go over the mountain. You got a little flip thing, so it's not complicated to shift seasonal accuracy on that. And then as regarding habitat, I quote from the plan, which is Trail design and activity should be planned in a way that values the relationship between trail users and wildlife and considers the space and habitat needs of wildlife. At the moment, further trail building is tabled, and as of now, and should you decide not to add additional parallel trail paralleling and within sight and sound of an existing trail, habitat preservation would be enhanced as further described in my letter December 16 below. You've all been very generous with your time in discussing these matters with me. Are there any questions I could answer at this time?
Okay, having no questions.
I have a quick question. Regarding one of your suggestions around public safety and security, in terms of the suggested remedy of nearby neighbors having a telephone tree of 3 or 4 volunteers, have you had any conversations and do you have any volunteers?
Oh, yes. I would be willing. Several of my neighbors would be willing. There are probably other people not directly bordering that would be willing. It's just a good thing to be sure that happens. And on a volunteer basis, at no extra charge to the district, I think we could easily assemble 3 or 4 people that would be on a tree that could respond to that as needed.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment then and move forward with the approval of the minutes from the December meeting.
Okay, pulling those up right now.
Motion to approve the minutes from December 16th. Sorry, I don't know if you heard that, Jennifer. I made a motion to approve the minutes from December 16th.
Great, we have a motion from Doug and we have a second from Krista. All those in favor, please.
Some motion from Matt.
I'm sorry, motion from Matt, sorry. And a second from Krista.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Okay.
Pulling it up here, Matt.
Up on the screen.
Hold on a second.
Yep. Once you get it up on the screen, you'll see this is a closeout financial report, treasury report for year-end 2020. So that's what you'll see.
All right.
Perfect. Okay, everybody can see that? Okay, so this shows the final cumulative graph, revenue and expenses for 2020. And remember, favorable is up in all cases. So you can see the budget and actual, budget yellow and actual in light blue in the revenue section, and actual magenta budget, darker blue in the expense section. So you can see we were unfavorable all year, and that's a cumulative display. So December is showing the full year cumulative. So showing a revenue shortfall, but you can see our expense control. You may not be able to discern that from the graph, but it's slightly better than our revenue shortfall, and that's reflected in the net, where that light blue line is actual and the magenta line is budget. So you see we had been cumulatively running favorable all year, or most of the year, since about mid-year. And we netted in the end 40K, slightly down from where we were in November. And so We don't end the year with any balance like that, and we have a cash balance that then we distribute. So what you'll see is those two blue boxes is where that money went. So as we talked about, the reserve fund threshold updates every year based on a forward look at projected expenses, which are rising in 2021. So the reserve fund balance has to rise along with that. You can see just under $5,000 was sent to the reserve fund to update that to the 2021 threshold. And then the remaining 36K thereabouts was sent to the M&L fund. So that's the year-end snapshot. And you can look, go on to the revenue chart, I think is next.
Okay, and it's not moving. Hold on, it's not moving.
Page down.
There we go.
Okay, so you can see that revenue shortfall chart, and the big bars are programs. Obviously, programs that didn't run, you can see that cumulative value. We took the big hit early on in the year, and as we've adjusted the budget, that's accounted for, less and less of a month-to-month impact. And that netted to 126K unfavorable. You'll see on the expense side. Next slide. You could see favorable expense control to the tune of 166K, which netted the 40K difference. So next slide. And that's the bulk of that's programs. And then the final slide shows the fund balances. This does not reflect the change. You'll see that starting in January, but you can see the reserve fund threshold rises to 264 from about 260, and M&O fund gets a 36K bump. Any questions? Okay, if no questions, Doug, can you pull up the vouchers and hit the updates?
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay.
Okay, that one seemed to work a lot easier. Updates from when you saw them on Friday. So the changes, we had membership dues for Rotary. We had paint supplies. We had janitorial supplies and light bulbs. We had Survey Monkey renewal, Shell gas for fuel, and ferry fees for maintenance vehicle going over, I think, to town. And I believe that was it. Yep, that was it.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on the vouchers? Okay, if no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers from the M&L fund for $66,884.38 as shown.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
I do have a question. The treasurer's report was not part of the packet when I took a look at it. Anyway, can that be shared or reposted or sent to me or something like that, just for records?
I can send it to you, Krista.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it would be a preliminary copy. Matt usually gets it to us, a day or two before the meeting after he's made his edits. So it would be what Matt sees, but we can certainly send that out and include that in the board packet. All right. Up next, staff report. So on this, you can see that we are having some programs canceled coming up. That's obviously due to where we're currently at. We're getting very few signups. We're adding some new programs for those kind of things. We had postponed running under the lights at the track at the high school. Carrie, has that started yet?
It starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So
Yep.
running under the lights starts tomorrow. We had some postponing for the new guidance, and then we had the power outage last week, so we had to postpone a couple of times. Carrie's been spending a lot of time online training with endurance, planning for the triathlon, and kind of cleaning. Basketball is not permitted in phase 1 or 2, so we're likely not holding a basketball league this year. Unless we decide that we want to compete for members with Little League and youth soccer, which I don't think we do at this point. I think we would write it off, get the kids outside to play rather than keeping them inside. It's a safer method, would be my recommendation. And she's also working on adapting programs to the new guidance for outdoor recreation and sporting activities. Maintenance, we did the trail work. Some quotes on the flail mower purchase.
Doug, can I ask one question from that list?
Sure, go ahead.
So right now, is it the plan to conduct the triathlon as a normal year triathlon?
That is
another version.
That is our current plan. That's what we're trying to do. We're having multiple discussions on that to see where we go. It's so up in the air, we don't know, but that's what our plan is.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood the plan.
It won't be. It's very unlikely that it'll be normal, and it'll have to be smaller, most likely, in order to facilitate distancing in our small spaces that we have. And we also may need to stretch it out so that it's a longer waves.
More staggered time.
Yeah, maybe a longer period of road closures, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. No, that sounds great. Thank you.
And then also with facilities and grounds, we had the storm cleanup after the major storm last week. So. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk? Is Tom online?
Tom's here.
Yes. You want to talk about what we're going to do about the floor trail behind the office building that's still underwater?
Matt, that's actually on the agenda to discuss tonight in the regular agenda.
Yep. It is. Okay. Great.
Krista, you had a question?
Actually, a comment. I was part of a chamber meeting earlier today. There is going to be I think it's a 28-page kind of brochure booklet that's going to drop island-wide on April 4th or 5th. It's the second. There was one, you all might have received it for the holidays. It was in your mail and in the newspapers about like shopping on the island. Well, the one that's coming in April is focused on activities and other things like that, and is supposed to be for kind of the next 4 to 6 months. And they are kind of doing topics that I think will dovetail nicely with some of the hopeful spring and summer programming coming. So, Carrie, you might want to reach out to them to see how you can maybe get mentions about some of the programs that are upcoming. Also, maybe you can get some free advertising. I don't know. I did suggest to them that they reach out to the Parks and Rec districts to include you guys. At the very least, there is an online portion as well. And at the very least, I think your program guide or at least the district website should be included in that. So just wanted to make you aware of that island promotion. It's basically about giving people more activities and ideas of things to do close to home.
That sounds really great. I missed at the very beginning. Who did you say was making that?
Cook broccoli and what?
You can go ahead and contact Inga Morshini at the Langley Chamber.
The chamber, okay. Great, thank you. That sounds wonderful.
Okay, so then what I've been working on is we met with the Trails Committee and we developed the naming plan for the trails at Trustland that we're going to be talking about today. We also discussed the trail that Matt just mentioned in Community Park that is flooding on a seasonal basis every year now behind the office. More on that in the regular agenda, and then we talked a lot about the communicating better and better showing our efforts on finishing up the trails at Trustland. I also solicited 3 quotes for the letter of determination for the impact of our campground development to the Osprey Nest on the school district property, and I've talked to I believe it's Saratoga Environmental on that and told them to go ahead. They were the low quote. Finalized and executed the purchase of the Waterman property. Thanks to Jennifer Cox for her help on that, and for all of the other people that contributed, Shelley Ackerman and her group, and the rest of the board and our staff. That's done. I've got one more billing that's in, and I've got some I's to dot and T's to cross with the RCO that I'm working on as well. Spoke to the sanitarian at the county, and we discussed the campground and placing gravel drainage below the spigots as gray water management effort, in addition to positioning garbage cans by every spigot, accompanied probably by signage directing guests to scrape food remnants into the garbage cans to help limit the food availability for rodents. And then we also had some discussion with the hospital regarding the potential partnership on the aquatic facility. We received this response when I reached out about a meeting that they are focusing on expansion in Coupeville over the next 3 to 5 years, and that physical therapy is not currently an area of focus. So we got more discussion on that in our comprehensive plan agenda item. That's all I had. I'm happy to answer any other questions that anyone may have. No questions? Okay. All right. Should I move forward to unfinished business, Jennifer?
Yes, please. Let's go ahead and go to unfinished business. Comprehensive plan update.
Okay, so comprehensive plan programs, I'll talk a little bit more detail about what I basically just said. I did get 3 quotes on the letter of determination. I'm proceeding with the lowest quote from Saratoga Environmental. Discussed the spigots. The sanitarian also mentioned some questions about bathroom facilities and shower facilities, so I'm going to be working with the county on that. I talked to her about that in a little bit of kind of an aside. So those things are progressing there. We did successfully close final documents. I have to provide the final documents, the executed copies, to the RCO when I get them in the office. I'm going to follow up on that over the next few days here. And then I did bill for it was for the appraisal review, and the cultural resources survey. So that billing is in, but they will not reimburse that until we finalize every little thing that we need to do to finalize and close out the grants. We did have communication from the hospital that they're focusing on other things. Let me see. I don't believe I put any. No, I didn't put any links on that. So I did get an email from Ron Tellis basically stating that right now they're looking at other options. They're not going to be interested in that, and that they're looking at selling the property that they own in Bayview, which is what we had talked about as potentially a partnership location there as an alternate to the location within the park. Matt, did you have, let me just get rid of this here. Matt, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, so the one thing we'd like to do, we got that feedback, thanks from Ron. And it's clear they're not talking about, or they're not proceeding with any kind of a facility. But what I'd like to sit down and talk to them about, to follow up on the earlier conversation we had up there at the hospital, is the idea of them renting space in the physical therapy facility there, because the two alternatives are, the two kind of buckets of alternatives there are: one, renting to the hospital, in some kind of exclusive relationship, or two, renting to private PT providers on the south end. And those are the providers who are handling the PT business that the hospital is not doing right now. And you can see there are quite a few of them. And the traffic is high. If you go by any one of the clinics, the traffic is high. It doesn't matter when you're talking about, what day, weekend, weekday. So that's the question that I'd like to ask them. And I know it's hard to get them around the table, especially these days, but if there's any way you can set up a meeting, just even a 30-minute meeting with them to talk about that topic, specifically the idea of just renting space, whether they want that or not, because if they take that off the table, then the committee can pursue relationships with the private PT providers on the south end. And if they are interested in some kind of exclusive relationship, then we got to take a different path. So wouldn't be a part of like contributing. One of the earlier ideas was that they would contribute on the capital side to the facility. It's clear that that's not their interest, so that's okay.
Yeah, I can reach out to Ron Tellis.
Okay.
I usually see him every Monday night at Rotary, so I can try and push him to get a meeting to talk about renting space.
Perfect. And then the second point that you'd mentioned in the director's report, this third-party feasibility study, the foundation has got the funding for that, and as I said last month, and there are 3 companies that are quoting it. 3, they're national experts in this kind of thing. One's a company called Councilman Hunsaker, which is the largest company that does this kind of thing in the U.S., based in the Midwest. And then a second group called the Isaac Sports Group out of Michigan. And then a third group led by a company called Ballard King out of Colorado. Each one of these companies has a local connection. The Councilman Hunsaker group is doing the feasibility study for the Anacortes, the new Anacortes pool right now. So they're familiar with the local area and costs and that sort of thing associated with the local area, demographics, climate, all those kind of things. The Ballard King team is just completed the feasibility study for the Sideview pool complex that's been proposed in North Bend, and they're also participating in a project that's in the city of Bellevue for a new aquatic center in Bellevue. And then this Isaac group is also part of the Bellevue project. They've done 3 phases of feasibility analysis for the Bellevue project. So all 3 of these are national organizations that have expertise, deep and broad expertise in this area, and they also have a local connection. They know where Whidbey Island is. They know, like I said, things about our climate and costs in this region, construction costs, prevailing rates of labor, and the one team that was doing the Bellevue project, knows all the guys at the Washington State Department of Health who do all the septic, the permits and the site reviews for the septic that we've been working through, all that kind of thing. So they're very well connected. The proposals are all due by the January 28th, which is the next committee meeting, and then there's going to be a rack and sack and a decision taken, and one of the candidates picked probably in the first week of February. So that should be off and running. That means they'll be rolling with that through between February and probably April, and that's when we should expect some surveys and public meetings and that kind of thing. So that's rolling, and it's been good to see that these companies that are big enough to know what they're doing are also connected locally, and it's not like they're coming in trying to figure out how you pronounce Whidbey, or whatever. So it's good.
Good. And then going back.
One other minor point. If you're familiar with the upcoming Sound Waters University program that's coming up in the next 2 weeks, there's going to be, the committee has a virtual booth there with just some information about the project. It'll be interesting to see how well that gets attended, but there's going to be this virtual booth there at the Sound Waters University. So if you're participating in that, or you're interested in participating in that, you can tap into the virtual booth there. It's the Parks and Aquatics Foundation's booth. So.
May I make a couple of comments, ask a couple questions?
Yeah. Comments, questions, go for it.
So following up on the Sound Waters, for another meeting that I had today, their registration is now, I think it's like 420.
Wow.
Above 400 people, and we still, again, have a few more weeks until the event. I'm sure somebody will be going to that booth. And
that's excellent.
Yeah, it's a very, it's a very well attended, very worthwhile event. I encourage everybody to sign up. Let's see, and then just a question about the campground, or a comment. So my second meeting of the day, I got to hear a presentation from Washington State Parks to the Washington legislature, and their use this year is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I think we all know everybody's going outside, and there are people engaging in outdoor recreation who never have before, but just what they were talking about in terms of, campground usage and reservations leads me to ask, so after these letters, what are the next steps, and when are we hoping to try to get the campground going?
The campground?
Yeah, I mean, our original goal was to be able to be up and running this summer. So, there's lots of T's to cross and I's to dot, and we need to figure out if that's achievable, but that was the plan last year.
Yeah, so that brings me back to what I wanted to kind of bring up here at the end is the small water system management plan is something that I've been struggling trying to get through with all the other stuff happening. I am going to, starting like this week, end of this week, next week, reach out to Davido and see if I can collaborate with them. Maybe I can do the easy stuff and just pass off the technical type things to them and see what that would cost, because that's one of the things that we need to do before we can put in anything. We need that small water system management plan done and reviewed by the state. So COVID has delayed a lot of things with this. I don't know that it's going to be open in July this year. That's something that we are still trying to target, but we still haven't gotten a bid out yet because of all of the permitting stuff. And every time I think we're close to the end, we get another one like the osprey nest that they throw up in our grill. So I think we're close, and that is what my next step plan is getting through the small water system management plan and then looking at final things to bid. I've got Matt Kukuk at Saratoga Environmental. I've already told him, go ahead, get started on the osprey nest. That's it was lower than what I needed board approval on, so I just told him to go ahead and do it. We're working through as fast as we can. It's just slower than molasses trying to get anything through right now. So that's kind of where we're at. And we're, like Matt said, our initial target was to have it open this summer. We're going to do everything we can to make that happen. But we can't control the situation. That's the problem.
So I've walked through there and saw where Tom had flagged various spots. Mm-hmm. It appears those are all tent spots. Is that?
No, those would be, every spot that we're putting in there is either a back in or a pull through. and we are doing clearing in those spots. Those are the identified campsites. So those will not be specific to tent. They will be just like the pads, everything that we've talked about with each site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I'll just say that, I mean, of course, summer would be highest usage, and we should still try to goal that, but their numbers for October and November were also staggering. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we'd love to be open sooner rather than later. It's just it's permitting has taken, it's been a nightmare. So they've changed planning directors, I think, twice since we started this. So, we're hoping that nothing changes again. So that's our goal, but that's what we're working towards. And I'm actually reaching out probably tomorrow to Davido to kind of start that conversation and see what we can work out and what the cost would be.
One doesn't have to be done before the other, though. This is being done simultaneously, right?
What do you
the
mean?
Environment impact, like the nest and the Davido planning at the same.
Oh, no. The nest is already underway. Everything that I find out, I immediately, get working on. The small water system management plan, it's intense. So I'm going to need help with.
One isn't holding up the other. It's being done simultaneously.
It's all being done simultaneously. If something were needed prior to anything else, that would be being done first. And that's how we do pretty much everything. Is I try to find out, okay, what are the steps? What do I need to do first? Yeah, no, one is not holding up the other. They just keep bringing up, hey, here's a new thing you have to do. Oh, you didn't think about the osprey nest yet. So
I walked it as well, Jennifer, and I'd just like to say, Tom, I think you did a great job in terms of selecting those sites and what I saw with trees that were being left and the aesthetics of it. Walking around that, I was just envisioning what that would look like, and I thought it looked really good. So, hats off to you.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the comprehensive plan program stuff?
I have a question about the Waterman property update. So when the grant monies do come in, do those come directly to us or do they go to the county?
They're gone. What do you mean the grant money?
To pay the bond back. So that's already done.
We have used the grant monies for the purchase, so the bond money is still sitting. Any remnant of the bond money that we have once we've paid off everything and closed out the purchase with everything, we can then reimburse from the bond money.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we have not. Yeah, the bond money is still sitting. Any remnant of the bond money is what we're going to reimburse because we had to wait for both grants because we were removing it from the forestry program. So we used the grant money directly for the purchase. Since that couldn't be used to remove it from the forestry program, we used bond money as our match. And then what we can do then, once we've completed all of the I dotting and T crossing and everything's done with RCO, then we can take that bond money, quantify it, and put it back right on the bonds. Okay.
All right. So any other questions then for the comprehensive plan programs? All right, then let's move ahead to new business.
Okay, so the flail mower attachment. This is something that was in the budget for this year as a capital expense. Let me minimize here, so I don't know if that shows up or not. In the 2021 budget, we did include the capital item for the purchase of a flail mower attachment. I believe this is for the mini excavator. Tom will correct me if I'm wrong. The quote included in the board packet is basically the state bid for this item. This is since it has already been bid out by the state and meets our purchasing requirements and no additional quotes are necessary, this amount is below the budgeted amount for this item. This is an approval item for the agenda. And let me go back here and I can pull up the quote so you can see that. And hold on. there's the quote. And if anyone has any questions about what the flail mower attachment is and what it does, Tom is available to answer that for you.
Yes, please. Or just where are you going to be using it?
So this will be used for pruning blackberries, brush, salal, huckleberry, tree limbs, any rough areas that that are kind of elevated, as well as new trail work. We're going to experiment with that, and the videos I've watched of how these are used, it's similar to what you see like on roadsides, things like that.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
It's essentially a brush cutter, right?
Yeah, it's a very fast spinning 30-inch lawnmower, if you will, on the end of the excavator arm.
So this would be, if there's no other questions, this would be an approval item. So we need a motion and a second and a vote.
And this is dug in the capital plan?
It is in the capital budget. I believe it was budgeted at $12,000.
Yeah. So if there are no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the flail mower purchase at the stated amount, $95.89.56.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Josh, aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Pat, aye.
And Jennifer, aye.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is the community park trail relocation. I sent this out early, and I hope everybody got a chance to get out there. I went out there with my rubber boots on and walked the area. The trail that runs behind the Park District Administrative Offices floods every winter. Since the neighboring property has cleared all those trees, the water has actually gotten worse. I walked down there, and I was in ankle-deep water walking down that trail. So that trail ends up having to be closed through the winter months. So what we talked about and what Tom did was he actually had his staff flag a trail that if we did a new route that way, the trail would be able to be open year-round. Staff flagged the route. I got that information out to the commissioners to go and review. And this would be something that we'd want approved for us to go in and do that work to recreate a new or create a new path for that trail, and then fill in the old trail so that it was no longer being used.
And this is just up the hill, slightly up the hill from the existing trail between the park office extension and switchback, correct?
I believe the new route actually goes, and Tom can correct me if I'm wrong, when I walked out there, it looked like the new route goes into switchback. And then
Yeah.
And it kind of like
that's the flooded section is between
right.
the bottom of switchback and the building access trail.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so it's relatively short, like 200 feet maybe, or a little bit longer.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it's probably 350 feet.
Okay. And how far up the hill?
It kind of meanders. I had Austin go out there a couple different times when the water was kind of at the peak, just to make sure that we could, still get around it. There's just kind of some small depressions in there. And so it kind of pushed us in a little bit more up switchback than we thought it would, but it's just the lay of the land. The way that water flows in across the trail now is we're just uphill from that.
I mean, I personally, I fully supported that trail got wet, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago, and it's not going anywhere. That wet area runs at a diagonal through there. You know, it's the headwaters of Maxwelton, and that clear cut happened on the adjacent property, and it, you know, it just made the flow heavier, and it happened earlier and with less of a significant storm this year. So to me, I can't see it getting any better.
It was impressive. You can do backstroke through there. I couldn't quite follow the whole, all the flagging, but it looked good to me. So I support it as well.
Tom, are you convinced that when you go ahead and dig out that trail, because it just didn't feel like the elevation change was significant enough that by the time you cut a trail, are we going to be stuck with the same issue?
We looked at it multiple times, and at the highest point, it's as high as I've ever seen the water table fill that spot before. And where we've relocated it uphill will remain dry. Just as a backstory for the new commissioners, prior to the two clear cuts now that are on the other side of the church, this would only happen in an extreme winter event, like a large snow with a quick melt and like a large rain on top of that. So I had only seen this, I think, maybe 4 times prior to the last 2 years. Since those clear cuts have happened, it's been back-to-back years, and really not extreme weather like I've seen before.
And so when are you proposing to do this? Is this something that should be done now, or do you need to wait for drier weather?
I was just waiting to hear the discussion. We can get in there and look at it. I would probably wait till we got a really, really good dry spell, probably 2 weeks of dry weather before we were to do anything.
So
is that something that would be better accomplished once you've got this new trimmer, this flail mower attachment?
Yes, I would like to try it in there. I don't know what the timeline is now. I'm going to contact them tomorrow and see kind of what the timeline to get that operational would be. But yeah, that would be a very good trial for it.
Yeah, if there's no other concerns, I'd make a motion to approve the trail rerouting as it's flagged with the adjustments Tom's going to need to make in process as we've seen before.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Josh, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
okay. And now we're on to our final agenda item. We have Trustland Trails. We have 2 things on this that we need to discuss. First, and actually, what I'm gonna talk a little bit, and then I'll go back and pull up the map so I can show you where everything is. So we did meet. Jennifer, Matt, myself, and Tom went out and walked, talked about possible trail names. We solicited some from staff and from commissioners. Got some ideas. We came up with a naming scheme, and that is up for discussion and hopefully approval at the board meeting. This is so we can do a signage plan and directional signage for the park may be developed. We don't want people getting lost out there. The other item is the switchback trail. At our December board meeting, after the board meeting, the staff flagged a switchback trail to provide an option to avoid that steeper sloped section on the one trail. At Trustland, staff had requested that all commissioners review that flag trail and look at it, considering whether that trail should be the same as our existing trails in width and construction, or if it should be a single track trail. Now, the single track trail would require a volunteer work party or two to construct, as we do not have the manpower on staff to make a trail by hand. This could take months because right now, last I looked, I had 10 volunteers for the Trail Steward program. That does not include Shelly Ackerman, but I do have to sit down with her and get that moving. So that could take a few months to do. If we do it ourselves in the same manner as we have done the other trails, it could be done in a day by staff alone. So that would also be a discussion and approval item. So let me pull up the map here, and so we can look at what we're talking about. So let's start with the Switchback Trail, and then we can talk about the names. So in talking about the Switchback Trail, there is a steep section. Can everybody see my cursor here?
Yes.
Okay, so right in this area, there's a steep section of trail. Okay, and staff, Tom and his crew, I believe it was Austin, went out and flagged a spot at the top of where it gets the steep section, and flagged a trail that kind of loops in and comes back in over here. So it's a much gentler slope. That could be either a single track or it could be a same as every other trail that we have here, in width and in design and in how we do it. That is a board decision as to what we do. I'm just giving you the parameters of what it would take to get done.
Yeah, when we walked it, if you're familiar with the Falcon Loop, the new trails around the campground property, where we had the original trail that went kind of straight up that hill, and added a bypass after working with Doug Fulton and the high school folks to make that easier to come down. To me, this would be the exact same thing, and my personal feeling is we should make it just like the other trail, the trail that it's on, and just cut that same little switchback. It's very short. I think that would be the most reasonable way. It matches the expectation of the users out there. It would be a really random piece of single track, 100-foot long piece of single track in there. Just my thought.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember this, but that section of trail with the hill, is that section of trail used by horses?
Mm-hmm. Can be.
It is. Okay. And would horses be able to use if it was a single track?
Yeah, I would say that yes, horses could use a single track trail. That would be up to them. Horses can go through very fairly narrow trails. They're very sure-footed.
There is horse activity on the existing single track trail that goes off of the parking lot towards the school.
I would agree with Matt that the type of usage there seems to be the not single track in that particular area. It would be odd, I think, to go a single track.
And so, Tom, in your opinion, would this be another good opportunity to use the new flail attachment to minimize impact?
Yeah, it would be a good trial, no doubt.
I have a comment. While I think you all make good points, I also think this could be a really fantastic pilot for volunteer work. And that was part of the original plan. And, to your point, Doug, and talking with Shelly Ackerman and possibly doing other trails, again, this just screams like what a this is a great, test to see if volunteers can put in single track. Understandably, it would take longer, but now that I think now that other loops are in, there are other routes for the people using the trail so that if they want to avoid that hill, they can. So it's not like something has to be done this week. So again, volunteers can take a little more time with it. And we probably will have future single trails, whether it's at Trustland or over at the Waterman property. This is an exercise that we have to try at some point. So why not here and now?
Mm-hmm.
I think just to your point about the avoiding it, it's far enough down, this is my opinion from walking it, it's far enough down that orange trail from that intersection with the magenta trail that, we would have to sign it somewhere at that intersection on both ends to say, hey, there's a steep hill, there's trail systems out there that have like degrees of difficulty, there are diamond trails, like a ski area, and green circle trails and, blue square trails kind of thing. So you could do something like that. And I understand what you're saying about the trail volunteers and kind of a trial project. Jen and I have been discussing that. You mentioned the Waterman property. That may be an approach that we end up recommending for that entire property, and using trail volunteers, trail stewards, plus, school volunteers, whoever we can get together to do that. Just because the adjacent property there is all single track, with the exception of the original forest road that goes through the middle of it. Anyway, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. I just say that, and that there's probably going to be a lot of opportunity to trial that process over on the Waterman side.
I agree with Krista. I would still like to go ahead and give it a try here, just minimizing our impact. And we already know that Shelley Ackerman and her trails group are on board. I think if we go ahead and put up the signage on either end of that trail that says that there are steep areas, and I like your idea, Matt, about saying, it's kind of a black diamond thing. That's something that most folks probably understand. And
you're about to make a bunch of trail signs anyway, right?
We can certainly sign that area. It's we put temporary signage up all the time. That's not the issue. And I'm just presenting the two options. I'm happy to do either way. There's no, in my mind, no one way is better than the other. It's just the one volunteer way. I'm just giving you the negative of it is that it will take longer, because right now I have 10 volunteers that I haven't even reached out to talk to about, hey, let's do a project. And then we're going to ask them, okay, well, hey, let's do this trail construction project. I can reach out to WTA and have them, they've been very responsive so far. They might be able to help us organize a training and use that trail as a training option. But that is not a known quantity at this point. So really the board just needs to tell me what you want me to pursue, and I'm happy to do it. And again,
I just think that like thinking about people coming upon that option, it's just going to be unusual. I think, for you're talking, Krista, about a lot of people getting out on the trails who haven't experienced the outdoors before, because of the pandemic. It's just going to be different. And I guess, when we talk about the idea of the perimeter trail, that trail is likely to have some single track. Maybe it's all single track. So maybe that'll help balance the park out. So, yeah, I can go either way.
I like the idea in essence, but the reason I'm in favor of continuing on is Tom's already working. He's already working on those trails as it is now, as opposed to I kind of go along the lines of the Waterman property seems like a much better opportunity to get that volunteerism up and running. So twofold for me. One, the equipment and efforts already being made there. And Waterman presents a whole different ballgame that I think has greater opportunity.
So I would just make the comment that it is a majority kind of decision for the board. The board does not have to agree on everything that we do, every way we do it. So it just really comes down to, is there any more discussion? Have people got a decision in mind? And is there a
Josh,
motion?
what do you think? I was just saying, Josh, what do you think? Sound echo.
Matt, can you mute yourself on your phone? Try again, Josh. Josh, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Matt. Josh is having some technical issues.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just wanted to make a quick comment. If the goal is making this more accessible, safer, if you will, because it's not as steep, I think the people that are going to use this little switchback trail would appreciate a wider track rather than the skinnier track. You know, people with a stroller, a walker, potentially, you know, just from again, like I've heard, you know, it's the same trail. You can take either one, just kind of like what we did on the Falcon Loop. And, you know, we're trying to make this easier for possibly elderly people to avoid the hill or lessen the hill. I think that a skinny track makes it a little tough on the older folks that I see out using the trails. Just my 2 cents.
So, I mean, I'm fine with it being done that way. Again, I just saw this as an opportunity to try something that was written into the original plan anyway. I agree that I think one of the best things about the Trustland Trail system, as opposed to existing trails on the island, and I'm thinking like, you know, Putney and Saratoga and the single track that's behind the schools, this has universal access, even beyond the ADA trails. And again, I think that is what's so lovely about Trustland Trails. But again, this was, again, an opportunity to get the community involved and pilot something that we're probably going to be doing more of. But I'm happy to go with the board. I just wanted to raise that.
I still want to pursue doing the single track option and working with volunteers, with Shelley's team, with Doug reaching out to the people that he had on the volunteers list and see if we can get that expanded. It is one segment of an extensive trail system and given the opportunity to put some signage on either end that says, hey, we're working on a switchback trail, or even at this point, just say, look, this is a steep trail. And if you're not up to it, please avoid it. Once we get the little switchback in as a single track, then we can open it back up again. But I think it's just a good opportunity to start practicing some alternative methods.
Did we get Josh back?
He texted me and said he was having technical issues. Josh, are you there? Can you hear us?
I haven't used the chat before. Is he possibly available on the chat function?
I don't know. I'm just sent him a text.
Okay, I just opened up the chat window too, and we'll see. How about we just give him a chance to get back in and offer his opinion while we go talk about the names?
I just sent an unmute request to him. He's saying he's talking, but we can't hear him. Okay, so
I know that feeling.
Yeah. So let's. Oh, there he is. Everybody else, mute. Okay, so Josh, if you can hear me, try doing it again. Matt, can you mute your phone?
Yeah, I just did.
Can you get hello?
Doug, Josh, have you tried hanging up and calling back in?
So here's what I would say, Josh. Try turning off your speakers while you're talking, because that's the feedback loop you're getting. You're speaking, and it's coming right through back into your speakers, and it's hearing it. And if you turn off your speakers while you speak, you should be okay.
Can you hear me okay now?
Now I can.
Hello?
I got you, Josh. It's Matt.
Yep, we got you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Really sorry about that. So I guess I agree with kind of what Eric was saying. You know, with the opportunity at Waterman's property, for more volunteer opportunities there, and with the switchback, just kind of getting it done, and you trying out the new flail mower sounds like a good idea to me. So that's kind of where I stand.
Okay, so if there's any further discussion on that, that's a board decision to make as to you're going to direct us which way we build that trail. And I would need a motion and a second, and then a vote.
I'm assuming the chair does not make the motion.
In general, the chair does not make the motion, yes.
Thank you, Doug.
I can really go either way on this, but I'm going to go ahead and motion that we allow Tom to create a double wide connection for the reasons that I've stated already.
When you say double wide, do you mean the same width as the existing trail?
Double track, yeah, same as the existing trail.
Yeah, okay.
Second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Josh, aye.
Eric, aye.
Say Matt, aye.
And so the silence from the remaining two commissioners, is that signify a nay, Doug?
It would signify a nay, or you could call for nays, and it could signify abstention.
All right, so we'll call for nay votes.
I'm a nay vote.
And Jennifer's a nay vote.
Okay, so the motion does pass 3-2. So we'll get that moving. But as parallel to that, I will be continuing to work and trying to get Shelley Ackerman, and then again, as Eric indicated earlier, this is not something that has to happen one before the other. I will be working parallelly to get the volunteers organized and working with WTA to try and get going. So potentially additional trails out at Trustland, as well as any trails we build in the future could be done from a volunteer aspect a lot quicker. Okay. The other aspect at Trustland is the trails naming scheme, and if you look on the screen here, this is what we came up with based on things that were in the site, as well as we talked about Serenity and Tranquility Loop. They were kind of interchangeable for either of the two ADA sections, and then just going through and Conifer Connector here in the purple, Mossy Way here in the red, Sword Fern Lane all the way down this way in the yellow, Raven Ridge coming around here. I would just call the switchback. That's what I would do, but we could talk about that too if we need to. Cedar Hollow, there's a lot of cedar trees on that line. Now let me minimize this. And go here and scroll down a little bit. And we have the Overlook Trail. We would have then the Ravine Loop. We talked about Headwaters Loop for this, but we also talked about the idea, which was brought up by the county, of doing a little spur that goes down into the actual headwaters to see that and to give an opportunity for some educational type signage, and here's what the waters are, and so on and so forth. And that headwaters name could be reserved for that kind of trail, Headwaters Trail. Here we had the shortcut, which cuts back there. And then the final one was Alder Alley. That was the loop down here that was created. If the board is good with that, and with my little, short switchback as the name there, we could put that naming scheme into place. I could then talk to the county about the ice geo mapping and getting it updated with the actual names of the trails, and then take that and upload that to hopefully other trail walking websites, as well as producing our own signage with names and directional signage. Here at this would be like maybe a sign that says this is Sword Fern Lane and this is Conifer Connector, so that people could find their way around.
Yeah, I personally am fine with it. I like the names.
All right, could we have a motion then for the acceptance of the trails legend, and with the addition of switchback trail name as well?
Roy, you got a question, Eric?
Yeah, I do actually. I just thought of this because we were hiking Washington, up in Anacortes, Washington Park this last weekend, and hopefully I can pull this off technologically. But I don't know if you can see this sign or you've seen those, but I really liked how they were succinct. They blended with the natural environment, and they were given a number. And when I look at this map, it's a lot of signage, and I know we're trying to direct traffic, but just the thought that, using the numerical value as well so that a person can easily identify just what trail they're on. And I'm just thinking of over the years when signs blow down, they get, harder to read. It's just a thought I'm having as I hike different trails, and I myself am trying to stay on the correct trail. That numerical value, or even the metal sign. I know it looks nice to have a wooden sign, and I don't know what thoughts are being put into that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. That I was pretty impressed. Washington Park has numerous trails, and it's pretty easy to go one way or another way. And I look at this and I think to myself, that's a lot of different trails. So for what it's worth, I just offer that up.
So, Eric, I think when we're talking directional signage, we're talking basically the posts that we have, like we have in Community Park, and keeping that the same. So they wouldn't be as obtrusive as an actual sign. They're just literally a post with a color coding, and maybe the color coding is just like this here. So the post might have a strip of red and a strip of, yellow, and it just sits right here and says, this is Mossy Way, this is, and it has little arrows. So if you look at the little posts when you're walking the trails in Community Park, that's what that's what my concept is I don't want big signs everywhere we go, but a little post that just sticks up that has two colors and tells you which way you're going. That's the directional signage we're looking at. That's what I'm talking about. Much less obtrusive. I do like the idea of the brown and it blends into the environment. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, to me, it's it's just kind of consistent look and feel. Like, you come to Community Park and you walk the trails, and you go there and you walk the trails, you see something that looks very similar. And I would consider the ones we have in Community Park to be very unobtrusive. Like, if you asked me where they were, I couldn't tell you, and I run on those trails every single day. So, literally, I could not tell you where there's one, but they're out there.
Will there be mileages, let's say, on the online version of it, not necessarily on the signs, but will there be something that gives people the mileage of the trails?
Yes, that is something that I will be working on, as well as putting mileage together of this loop is this long and this trail is this long, and getting that all put together as part of this plan. Mileage is definitely important. People need to know that. They need to know if they're going, they need to know how long they're going to be walking. Yes.
Yeah, the place for that is on the signboard at the parking lot, right? So to Eric's point, there's not
right here
kiosks every 100 yards, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you take a picture of it on your phone, or you.
Well, that's the other aspect. That's the other aspect of this is we'll put a code in the corner that people with smartphones can scan, and boom, they'll have the map on their phone.
This is Carrie speaking. I just wanted to make sure when you're doing the color coding, there's a lot more people that are colorblind or partially colorblind than you would expect. So I just would exercise some caution about color coding things.
Yeah, and I think the names are your backup plan, right? Like on that,
the names on them, like they are in the park.
Yeah, on that map in the parking lot, the name Mossy Way is written next to the pink line. So you got the color code, you got the name on the map, and then you got the name next to the trail on your map, on your printed map, and on the map on your phone. I would think that'll get everybody, except having it in Braille, probably.
So the idea here is that we're talking about signage. we're not at that step yet. I will be bringing this back with the signage so that we can look at this all and talk about this some more then. We're just talking right now simply about the names and the naming convention. If that's cool, then we just need a motion, a second, and a vote, and then we can, you know, put this into place, and I can start getting some signage ideas put together to bring back to you guys.
I think you guys did a great job on the names. I like them.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the names as shown on the trail legend.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Josh, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay, and folks, I believe that's all I have for you tonight. Let me double check here just to make sure.
So as long as we're on the Trustland Trails, can I do a little shout out and ask a question?
Certainly.
So I would like to give a nice shout out to Tom and his crew for the trees that they have planted along the new trails and flagged them with the wonderful blue flags. And my question is, do we have any signage up at the parking lot letting folks know what the blue flags mean and to look for the new tree plantings?
Not yet, but it will be. I had some signage that we were planting trees and to watch and stay on the trails, but I will be updating that with the blue flag and adding that to the parking lot display.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can I give a shout out, Jennifer?
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Jennifer for being the park district liaison to the neighbors at Trustland Trails over the last 4 weeks. She has run multiple laps of those trails with interested, concerned neighbors and has, I think, represented the district and the board brilliantly in those conversations. I've been in those conversations myself with the other commissioners, and none of those are easy. And I just want to say thank you for doing that, Jennifer, and I just appreciate all of the time you spent and the goodwill you developed.
Hi as well, Jennifer.
Thanks. But I know that Eric had a part in it. Krista, you've had a part, so it takes all of us. But thank you, Matt. I appreciate your kind words.
And I'll also say, your first meeting as chair, we end in serenity. How about that? And tranquility. Sorry, serenity or tranquility. Either one.
There you go. There you go. Listen, thank you for helping me with my grammar on that, Matt. I appreciate that. All right. So if we have nothing else this evening.
Just a reminder to send in the email about the vouchers.
That would be it.
Thank you, Peggy. All right.
66, 884, 38.
Say that one more time.
66, 884, 38 from M&O.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Then we will adjourn at 7:34.
Thank you all.
See you guys.
Thanks for the work.
Thank you.